So I've been playing Drakengard. Yoko Taro, the man most famous for his appearance at Square's E3 presentation. And also because he made some games, I guess. Those games being Nier and the rather infamous Drakengard series. The first entry of which I am reviewing today, because I've owned it for fucking ages and I probably should at least touch it or something. The story of Drakengard stars a young man called Kaim. Kaim is a soldier man person, so as the game starts, he's smack dick in the middle of doing some war fighting. However, he isn't very good at actually doing this, and thus he ends up getting a boo-boo. Luckily for him though, he ends up finding a dragon who also has a boo-boo. So they make some kind of evil pact where Kaim has to sacrifice his voice in order to unboo-boo the both of them so they can do some war fighting together. Insert incest, pedophilia, general douchebaggery, and pretty much one of the most subtly fucked up stories you'll ever play. Now, besides all of the gifs people post of Yoko Taro because haha clap I guess, he is also known for actually kinda maybe being very on point. He's the type of dude that seems to overthink everything, and that leads to him having some pretty cool ideas from which he starts writing his games. In fact, I'd say that this quote about this game's development sums up what I mean perfectly. The vibe I was getting from society was, you don't have to be insane to kill someone, you just have to think that you are right. You see, everyone in this game is wrong, or twisted in some way. You know, kinda like how real people often tend to be during times of war. And for what it is, this game explores that surprisingly well. And I don't think I've ever really experienced anything quite like it. Yeah, the only problem is that the gameplay is very, very fucking lacking in comparison. Thing is that the game's designers thought that it would be cool to make a game that would be a fusion between Ace Combat and Dynasty Warriors, being that the game has Star Foxy shmup-like levels taking place barebacking a dragon, and levels where you do the same 3-hit combo over and over and over and over and over. The shmup levels are fairly simple as you just awkwardly follow the arrow pointing at whatever you need to shoot at and then shoot at it, and simply dodge or move out of the way whenever they shoot at you. And the hack and slash levels are also fairly simple as all you do is just awkwardly navigate the map to wherever it is they tell you to go, and then kill all of the dudes that have a target marker above their head. The killing in question is done through stabbing motherfuckers by bashing square, doing magic-y attacks by either pressing triangle whenever or during combos, and by summoning the dragon and wreaking havoc upon the land. And that's really everything that you get to do. There aren't really any combos or interesting mechanics or really anything that would resemble depth or proper kinesthetic design in the slightest. This is, without a single shred of a doubt, the most flaccid and simplest combat I have ever experienced. The lack of visual cues, controller rumble, timing, and proper sound effects make it feel like you aren't actually hitting anything at all. The only thing that kinda feels good to do is doing the super duper fire breathy attacks when on dragon, but even that gets old rather quickly as I said, this really is a game where you just do the same 3-hit combo over and over. Which is rather strange as well, as it completely nails its atmosphere, story, and tone, and even the writing and voice acting are actually pretty good considering it's a lower budget PS2 game from Japan. But everything from a gameplay standpoint seems to fall flat completely as it lacks any of all semblance of proper mechanics. Again, there aren't really any combos or parrying systems or in-depth customization or anything like that. Something that does kinda resemble this is the fact that Kaim can carry multiple weapons, each with their own magical element thingy and a slightly different feel as to how they attack. But in the end, it doesn't really end up adding much to the game at all. And the same goes for all of the RPG mechanics as well. You'll level up, sure, and you'll get some new swords and a new attack every once in a while, but it doesn't really change how the gameplay feels. Which, in this case, isn't very good. Now, a couple of minutes ago, while I was explaining how the game works, I added the word awkwardly when talking about navigating the game's many levels. And what I meant with that was, fuck this absolute cunt of a camera! Thing is, you can't actually rotate it normally. It'll just kinda edge over to one side only for it to pop back to the shittiest possible angle known to man. This, combined with the map that turns relative to which direction you're facing, and a minimap that shows no geography, makes it pretty hard to find what you're actually looking for even when you're standing right next to it. Mostly though, this is actually because of the game's rather selective render distance, as it somehow manages to render most of the land but just not the enemies that stand in it. So, even when you're going in the right direction, you still can't properly see what you're running towards. And Kaim's rather slow running speed certainly doesn't fucking help either. Luckily though, as a way to kinda balance this out, you're able to summon the dragon at almost any given time, and then scan the land in one fell swoop as you get your bearings on the lay of the land at least somewhat. And also, doing the dragon is actually pretty cool, as you can completely ravage every single motherfucker that you come across. That doesn't make it any less repetitive, in fact, I'd say it might even be worse. But at least it's fun on a very basic, primitive, brain-dead kind of level. And that's well nice, mate! Anyway, something rather odd that dawned on me after playing the game for about 5 hours straight is that while the combat does suck a big fat one on most of all accounts, it never actually bothered me or made me want to quit preemptively. Like, the game is still very playable, and most of the time I just kinda zoned out while not giving a single fuck. So while it is still shit, it's not like it's completely broken or frustrating. It's just really bland and uninspired. And in a way, I can see a lot of this being done on purpose because of that whole experience being a killer thing. And if that is the case, then I can almost kind of respect that. The game just has this really odd hypnotic quality to it. Like it's just this endless drone of murder and bloodshed that just keeps going on, and because of that, it didn't really bother me anywhere near as much as it probably should have. Still though, one could argue if the game's message really has any effect when you play it like a mindless drone, as Kaim seems to be more of the very angry, bloodlusty variety instead of being a thoughtless psycho killer. And yeah, in that case, I'm not too sure if it really mirrors his experiences very well. But it does fit the overall mood. You see, the game feels very empty, dead, and desolate, as for all intents and purposes, the land has been completely fucked by the constant warfighting, and everyone that still inhabits it is sick in the fucking head. I mean, the game has a lot of heavy religious themes, so there's bound to be some pedophilia and incest involved at some point. And that's not some stupid fucking atheism joke either, as medieval times were ratchet as fuck and the church didn't exactly help out all that much. In fact, I'd probably argue that those fraudulent cunts only made it worse. And where most games set in medieval times tend to ignore this side of history, this game takes it and fucking runs with it. It really is one of the darkest worlds I've ever experienced, especially as it's really subtle about all of it as well. And the soundtrack plays into this perfectly. It uses a lot of pitched orchestral samples rather than real instruments or VSTs, which gives it this really weird, I don't know, broken vibe, I guess. Kinda like all of it just sounds wrong. It really elevates the game's fucked upness to a whole new level, and I fucking love it. Ooh. So yeah, it's not like the game doesn't have any entertaining value to it at all, as the story and the atmosphere certainly kept it going for me. And even during the combat, they at least tried to have a lot going on. They'll introduce some new concepts and enemy types here and there, and it definitely has the makings of a somewhat mediocre hack and slash game. It's just that it lacks any of the viscerality or satisfaction that you get from other games like it. Even the dumbest of the dumb, like Dynasty Warriors and Lollipop Chainsaw, still feel good to play. And this game doesn't really do that, as the regular combat just kinda sucks. So much so, in fact, that I'd actually recommend playing the game on easy, as it'll lower the amount of enemies you need to kill. And trust me, you need to kill a lot of fucking enemies. So at least getting rid of some of the fluff like that should keep it from becoming frustrating along with it being repetitive. And I normally don't condone pansy shit like this, but just the idea of having to go back and replaying some of the stages just to level grind, when the average fight can easily take up to an hour, makes my fucking anus invert faster than you can say